once and for all that these people are fucking idiots.
Johnny, we've got bloody hundreds of bloody comments from concerned viewers who are worried that the US is pushing for a war with China, and this bloody balloon stuff, it's not helping. Well, I'm sure there are a lot of comments there, Johnny, because people are concerned. Right, yeah. And this bloody balloon bullshit, Johnny, has certainly added fuel to the fire about that bloody particular bloody.
While they also seem to shapeshift from being small cylindrical devices into large car or even bigger sized octagonal objects with strings hanging from them. Surely some fighter pilot took some pics before the missiles were let fly.
But Johnny, surely there are thousands of weather balloons up there just floating around. Do you reckon the US is just picking the odd one out and saying it's Chinese? Yeah, there's a lot of weather balloons out there, Johnny. And yeah, maybe the US is just picking some out that happen to be floating over just for bloody publicity's sake and heading out there and shooting them down and saying they're a Chinese balloon or whatever, and they may not be Chinese balloons at all. That's why the fucking government, the US government, is so bloody slow in coming forward and saying what the hell they are. Right, yeah. Probably shooting down weather balloons from fucking Denmark or something. Jesus Christ! Let me ask Johnny Channel, Johnny, we know there's a lot of bloody conspiracy theories out there, and a conspiracy theory about this, and a conspiracy theory about that. But by Jesus, there's a few people out there that think this is really happening.
Top story, and let's talk about this crazy balloon UFO story, shall we?
Yeah.
The globalists spent all frickin' weekend scaring us about UFO attacks around the world. And I believe, guys, this is all a major distraction to take our mind off of two major items, which we'll get to in just a second. Folks, you are watching literally a disinformation campaign of the highest order being waged on your brains right now from the ground up. You should grab your pencils, grab your pens, wake up grandma. And this is something that actually should be taught in colleges in a couple of years. Like how the government perpetrated a propaganda disinformation campaign in order to get us into World War III, essentially.
Them over, so we got to be wary. We've got to build our troops up, build our bases up in the Pacific, because the Chinese threat is real. US bases. Oh, how many are we talking about here?
As we continue to look at U.S.-China relations, we turn to the growing U.S. military presence in the Pacific. The Biden administration recently reached an agreement with the Philippines to give the United States access to 4 more military bases in the former U.S. colony. This will allow the U.S. greater access to the South China Sea and Taiwan as tensions rise between Washington and Beijing. The deal.
Okay. Oh, how many are we talking about here?
Not really cognizant of the extent to which U.S. military power through these bases is wielded around the world. Could you remind us how many U.S. bases are there in the world? How does that compare to other countries in terms of having military bases on foreign soil?
Global network of around 750 U.S. military bases outside the 50 states and Washington, D.C.
Jesus Christ! Who would bloody know? Okay, well that puts a different bloody slant on things.
Jimmy, should we be paying attention to a memo like this? What do you think it means?
What I think it means is that the United States is trying to provoke and saber-rattle with another nuclear power, right? This is what we were supposed to be afraid of was going to happen with Donald Trump, right? He's a crazy man who's going to have his finger on the nuclear button, and now we have Demented Joe who is saber-rattling with 2 nuclear powers, and they get the corporate media sponsored by the military-industrial complex to get Americans to cheer it on. And why do Americans cheer it on? Because they have no idea what's actually happening with their foreign policy, and what's worse is they have no idea that they have no idea that they don't have any idea what's happening with their foreign policy. We have 400 military bases surrounding China since the Korean War.
Already has, by the Pentagon's own count, 313 U.S. military base sites in East Asia alone.
I mean, how many bloody bases do you need around the world? 750 bases? Yeah. And all this crowding around China. Imagine if the bloody Chinese set up a fucking military base just offshore of the US mainland. Right, yeah. But the US can encircle China and expect them just to bloody roll over and take it. I mean, they're pushing the boundaries of World War III.
So it's interesting to see this stuff entering into the mainstream. Let me know in the chat and the comments what you think they're trying to achieve. Is this a distraction? Is this an opportunity to escalate tensions and expenditure in a presumed forthcoming war between the US and China? How do you think this is functioning? One thing we know for sure is if you see it on the mainstream media, it will not be at odds with the interests of the powerful. That's not how things work. We know that by now, right?
Object shot down over Alaska, Mr. President.
Success. Former Defense Secretary Mark Esper tells CBS News if it is in fact Chinese, it would be a very troubling escalation, Andrea.
Oh, that would be a troubling escalation. Once again, the news is doing the job of the government, of the military-industrial complex. Do you ever stop to think that's not what they're meant to be doing? We just assume. Well, of course, the government, the media, and the Pentagon are all in league with one another. We've just accepted that. The US military, it should be noticed, has been using the threat of UFOs to ask for more funding for years.
Apparently Chinese. Yeah, what the hell is bloody going on with that? And this bloke here, 12 months ago, he was laying out the very scenario that we're seeing now.
I seem to remember, actually, a former FBI agent, John D'Souza, about a year ago or so, warning us that the deep state was going to use a fake UFO invasion in order to distract us from what's really going on.
They're going to have to do something else. And I think fake alien invasion is one of the main things they have ready. And here's one of the keys to understanding fake alien invasion is that our military, for instance, our military-industrial complex is so large, so huge, it's larger than many countries. There's segments of the Pentagon that I refer to as the dark Pentagon. It is military officials that are working with the cabal because they really need to get the fear up, to get back on the map with this fake alien invasion. And we're going to see a lot more politicians start supporting the Tic Tacs and the UAPs. And they're all going to be getting online to support them and to show how important they are.
I think actually the balloon incident offers a rare opportunity for us to consider a really hard and stark question, and that is, do we want a war with China? I think the people of the United States absolutely do not want war. They are sick of war.
Again, governments around the world just push a bloody agenda and keep the people dumb and ignorant, and we can do whatever we like.
So, again, people are being, the war machine cannot be stopped. Who's running this country? The war machine. It certainly isn't Joe Biden making these decisions. I would like to know who is making the decisions. And I just want to remind everybody, the United States is the world's terrorist. We just set the Middle East on fire in the last 20 years.
Yeah, they're pushing the boundaries of World War III.